Welcome to the White Wave Views broadcast by the Pakeha Queen. That's me. Welcome to the White Wave News, coming to you live from Auckland by the Pakeha Queen. That's me. Gati Victoria, coming at you with a story, giving more of us to ya.
Well, yes, welcome to the White Wave Views broadcast tonight, the WWVB, coming to you live from Auckland, New Zealand, by Addie Morrison, that's me, also known as the Pakeha Queen. But New Zealand isn't ready for a monarchy yet, a white man's monarchy. Well, that would be unusual, wouldn't it? But it's been all right for the Maori Queenie. She's been going over to England and having a hongi with King Charles over there. Isn't that amazing that she manages to do that? How do they do it, these people? I don't know. It's just absolutely crazy. What is going on in our country, and what is the White Wave Views all about? Well, this is the headquarters of the Pakeha Movement. It's an initiative that a group of us have drummed up to foster unity amongst New Zealand Europeans, so we have a socio-political voice, and to preserve and celebrate our culture and heritage. So that's what everybody else is doing here, people. We have a multicultural society, and we have to adapt to that. And quite frankly, all of these groups that are coming in, these different religions and cultures and races and all of this, we're getting lost in it all. And all of our resources are going to these people, and I believe there's a lot of state-funded racism and discrimination going on, and it's pretty clearly obvious that we're being pushed out. You know, apparently we did it all wrong, and we're the problem, and we've been reduced to an ism with all of this worldwide culture war on whites and decolonisation, and all of these threats we're facing, the anti-colonial. You know, we need to have a better system, and we need to bring in all the tribal mysterious knowledge and everything, because it's all a better way. And all I can see is that what Maoris are doing today is that they're just using all our elements and putting a Maori name on it. It's actually quite insulting and offensive. I don't think they realise how insulting and offensive they really are. But we're more about solutions here at the Pakeha Movement. And we've decided to form a council. We've got a trust happening, an incorporated society information with information. And we're going to be approaching the councils to see if we can capture some of our settler halls back here in Auckland. This is where I'm working from. And I'm building a team of people in Auckland. So if you're in Auckland, if you know somebody here that's patriotic Kiwi, and, you know, they're sick and tired of having their voices silenced and cancelled out, and all of this hate speech laws coming in, it's all designed to shut us up. You know why? Because they got a dirty little secret. The Crown has. And their dirty little secret is that they stole more land from the Pakeha settlers than they did from Maori, because what they did confiscate was actually the land that the Maori sold us through the New Zealand Company mainly. So, you know, that's why they wouldn't let us in the tribunal, because the Crown can't face what they stole from us. They can't afford to give it back. They can't afford to even admit. But that Waitangi Tribunal only dealt with the Maori side, you know. It was a case of no Pakeha allowed, and I think we should do a documentary about it. You know, we need to equalise and get some relativity here. Let's have a no Pakeha allowed documentary going on if anybody wants to tender for the production of that. We believe that Pakeha is going to be the next cultural megatrend. Well, you know, with this new system I've got, it's the OBS system, which I can use to live stream and capture other things, and I'm going to be bringing people on as well, you know, real live human people, so I can have a chat to them, and we can have a bit of a laugh and a bit of a discussion. about what's going on in New Zealand and how the worldwide war on the white guy is being played out here, right here in New Zealand, and all these bad actors, you know, all these threats that the Christians face and all of that. Because, look, let's face it, you know, the meaning of Pakeha has a lot of Christianity attached to it, you know, and that's the basis and foundation of our nation, to be honest. That's where the divine sovereignty came in, and those early brave missionaries, those Pakeha settlers, they inherited land through a divine blessing. Okay, that's just one lot that the Crown stole or shrunk down to nothing, you know. We had plans for that, and the Maori invested in our plans, and they agreed, and they had documents, and the chief signed it before the Crown came along. There was a big mammoth work going on with lots of people involved and the early settlers coming here, and they put all of their heart and soul and investment into those properties that the Crown just, you know, invalidated, but threw them off anyway, and you know, did some more surveying, picked up on it, you know, picked up on all the 30 years of what we'd done, and then they just, you know, sold those sections to another lot of settlers for 10 times as much. And that's how this country got started. And unfortunately, those families have been interbred and mixed with Maori over the 180 years, and also with other streams of European people, particularly from England, that have come in. So it's very hard to pinpoint who is owed what. So we just become a big collective like they did with the Maori iwis. They put them into iwis and got them to choose which one. And some of them have 4 or 5 or 6. They wouldn't know. You know, a lot of them are mostly European. So, you know, I mean, we left our clanships long ago. We didn't come here as clans or come here as, you know, we came here to work and build. And we had a good partnership going with Maori chiefs. Only the rebels needed to be policed by the Crown. They didn't need to take away the independence, the flags, the partnership, or the land. They didn't need to. The Maori didn't need to sign the treaty. I mean, there's a question whether it actually applies to us or not. Does the treaty apply to Pakeha? Or doesn't the treaty apply to Pakeha? You know, I've been thinking about this. And if it does apply to us, then the Crown breached the treaty on us as well. And our properties and dwellings and investments and all of that weren't protected. In fact, they came straight for us. And after about 10 years, they ended up moving from Auckland to Wellington and took over our government. So, you know, where the beehive is was the first settler grounds. And it's a very sacred space to those people who remember the Crown raids upon the colonies. There needs to be a film about it. So we're going to start talking about that sort of thing. And we're going to have a purpose and a plan. And the plan is a colonial mission march to Parliament. And the concept and the word of God that comes down to me is that we follow the beaten track of the Maori and we take a page out of their book, because what they did got them unprecedented acquisitions and attention in so many ways. And it was a very simple thing they did. So we're going to follow in the footsteps. We're going to do a colonial mission march, which is going to be similar to the 1975 Maori Land March, where Whina Cooper led Maori people. She went through the maraes first and they took a petition. She gave her messages and she took a petition to Parliament. And within 1 month, they had the Waitangi Tribunal. I mean, what have we been doing for 50 years? We've been really lazy and slack, just getting on with life, and then suddenly we're realising that, wait a minute, where's the Kiwi culture gone? You know, why are we being swamped with everything that we just don't need and doesn't work? Because we took our hands off the plough. Okay, we stopped being watchers on the wall, and we stopped teaching our children what was important, the values, the traditions, and now apparently we don't have a culture. Or we get told that, oh, the cultureless Pakeha, and I sort of scratch my head and I think, the cultureless Pakeha, what do they mean by that? I mean, everything is really the European culture here, but let's explore and identify what it means to be Pakeha in the 21st century. It's something that the Pakeha movement want to explore and discuss with other people. Maori, Islanders, immigrants, especially immigrants, because we want them to know who we are and how they see us, and we want to make a bridge and a connection with them. They're not really doing it, They're pretending that they are. They have like a multicultural community event every now and then that never really includes anything about us. And, our children at school on multicultural days, they just get left in their uniforms, and it just really breaks my heart, it really pisses me off. No end. I'm sick and tired of all of this pressure. In fact, what the Maori complain about is exactly the same as what we're complaining about. We feel like we're oppressed, cancelled out and silenced, and people are in fear. There was a survey done, Elizabeth Rata talked about it, that half of the academics are too scared to speak up, especially about history and the treaty. And part of that is because they just don't have the right knowledge. But if Pakeha just understand that the Crown stole land off us, our independence, our flag and our voice, okay, and if they reopened that commission, then we should have been at the table, but they didn't. For 50 years, they've kept us out. And the only reason is because they just can't face it. It would just pretty much collapse them. However, we could go easy on them, okay, because through the tribunal, the Maoris got a tenth, which was promised in the New Zealand Company charters for Wellington, Nelson and Taranaki, specifically. But they've been trying to apply that everywhere, like down on the South Island as well, which was a different broker. That was Johnny Jones down there. And there was others up north as well, and they were all having the same Declaration of Independence flag, or the United Tribes flag, the one that some of the Maori people are waving, was originally a Church Missionary Society flag, and which had a black fimbre around the red cross in the corner, and the Maori adopted that, and they changed the fimbre to a white one to differentiate their company of trading with borrowing British ships. So all the ships that were coming here with people, eventually they came with people, because after the 1835 Hapakaputanga, the Maoris were allowed to trade land as well, and they wanted the colonists to come in. They weren't really colonisation at that point in time. The Crown did the colonisation, which was the upsetting way. Before that, there was a different way that was going on the ground, with participation and protection and partnership with Maori chiefs. Okay, now all those chiefs around the country didn't always have a great connection because there was no telephones or internet. So it was very difficult. There was a lot of teething problems, but people were willing to break through, and that's the only way that this nation became great, was those founding people, the missionaries, the pioneers, the Maoris that became Christians, working together, becoming prosperous. Even before the Crown came here, Maoris were having business and orchards and growing things and trading and using ships, and they had it all going on, right? Well, the Crown busted that up. I don't think the Maoris thought they were going to bust that up. They confiscated the New Zealand Company lands, and to do that, they did it bit by bit. They did it from the central part first, and then they did the rural. Okay, so the rural part, they had to foment some wars, so, there was just all these wars going on everywhere. There was a little bit of peace for a while, but they kept sending settlers into the affrays, and everybody was wondering whether they were going to get back on their private properties or not. And people got clogged up in the townships like New Plymouth. They got clogged up because the Crown just wouldn't let them onto the property because there was too much rebellion. And they caused it by coming in and taking over. Instead of just policing the colonies being built, they just wrapped everything into their state monopoly. And it really is a terrible crime they did.
And we're just bringing it to the fore, and we want a discussion about it. You know, we don't want to bring the government down or anything, you know, and all of that, but we certainly are entitled to our promised 10% in the company charters, which there was in there. Okay, the Maori got their tenths through the tribunal and through private cases, and so we're entitled to tenths, which means that we will have communal land, which is a tenth of New Zealand. That's what we're owed, and the Crown will just have to give us pieces of land here, there, and everywhere of the wastelands out there, surplus lands, and there's plenty of it. Because the Maori could only get 10%, and they can only get 10% of what the Crown stole from the Pakeha settlers. That's how it works. It was us they confiscated from. And the Maori tenths were inside those estates. They secured their investment in there. You know, that's why they did it. They weren't stupid. So the ones today that are going back 180 years to grab the equity of those first settler properties, that's a pretty low blow and a kick in the fucking guts to us. That really is, because you know what? We're out here, a lot of us are landless. We don't have any communal land, and all our settler halls and heritage buildings are just being thrown out to the general pool, and the council's making money for them. They've got all of these foreigners and people that are not us, that didn't build this country. They weren't the apostles and the architects and the builders and that. They're running our colonial institutions, you know, our art galleries and museums and education systems, all of it have all been infiltrated. It's like we have to start everything all over new again. And talking about starting something new, we're going to have a charter school prototype we're doing in Auckland as well. We just need to have a facility, and we're going to work together with the council. Me and Pauline are going to make a speech next month. We're having our first Pakeha conference in December in Auckland, so I will leave the email for us in the comments below, and please email us if you're interested. If you're in Auckland, I want you to be part of my team. Okay, we're going to be doing some exciting things soon. Okay, maybe a couple of months down the track, we're going to be starting to do some activities around the place. It's going to be very well organised, and I'm going to lead it, and I'd like some people to come with me and support me in those things. We might do a land occupation. It'll be well organised, just a temporary one for a week, and I'll need a few people there camping out with me, and we're going to have some education and signs up and talk to people about the land in New Zealand is under dispute, because there's millions of acres that was purchased by the settlers, and they only got a little bit of it back, and the Crown just stole the rest and made money from it. So there's something to be said about that. But we want to celebrate our culture as well, because we believe we did a good job in New Zealand, irrelevant of the Crown coming in. We did a good job, and they're always trying to beat us down and keep our voices quiet, because they just don't want this information out there at all. I don't really mind what people think of me or what I say, because I believe that what Maori got, we're entitled to, and that's all we're saying. We want to go for claims. We want a settler tribunal. We want to have some settlement with the Crown about this, because otherwise the country isn't going to heal, and we're never going to be able to move forward. The immigrants need to understand that there's a fight over land in New Zealand, and it's not just what the Crown stole from the native people. It's what they stole from us as well, and there's been intergenerational poverty and an impact because of that. We're getting blamed for Crown crimes, and it's affecting our people. We've got very high suicide rates, and they're keeping the raps on that. They're not reporting or anything, and we're going to be reporting that sort of thing. Okay, so I'm going to be talking to people, getting them on, and having a discussion. Like I said, in the email below, you can contact me and say, I would like to be on one of your podcasts and have a chat about what you're doing, what initiative and project you've got, or you can ask me questions about what we're doing with the Pakeha Movement and how we're taking small steps to have our voices heard and to capture some cultural spaces so we can supply some well-being support for our people, and we can claim this part of the $700 million targeted health funding suicide prevention, that sort of thing, that goes to ethnicities. And because we're not listed there, we need to be Pakeha back on the census again. This is what differentiates us, and this is what's important with a Pakeha name. It's not a derogatory name. It is a legal and lawful name. Okay, we're documented historically as the other race of the treaty. It was like a baptism. And the Maori became Maori, Pakeha became Pakeha. The Europeans and the Polynesians and the mix of the people in they were called Maori because they had mixed bloodlines. And the Pakeha got a name as well because we were holding hands together. They came through the cross of Christ and got baptized, and they got a new name, Maori. Okay, and they're sacred names. I think it's beautiful. I think our history is the most amazing. I mean, it's a unique account of history. Don't lump us in with the basket of the British Imperials and the terrible things they did overseas. A different thing happened here. So we have to account for that. And it's no good focusing on all the negative stuff about the white guy while celebrating the apparent rich culture and religions and races of everybody else. Everybody's out there having their race cult, and what they say is the well-being is being together with your people and doing things together. Okay? So that obviously applies to New Zealand Europeans as well. We can't be afraid to be together and have freedom of association and support one another. What we need is unity. We need a network too, like all the iwis. We need to have some of our Pakeha Maoris back in our hands so we can serve our people in the community, right? Okay, so anyway, this was all really just a bit of a test for me because I'm not sure exactly how this is going to come out. But yeah, until I have a look back on it. So I'll just leave that here for now. And I'll be back on in another few days. And I'll maybe bring on somebody with me, somebody interesting. And so you can enjoy a bit of a chat with me and that person. So for now, I'm just going to say goodbye, and I'm going to leave you with a song. I'll play it twice. This is a song that me and Suno did together. And I hope you enjoy it. See you next time.